Hey guys, this is Punisher911 and this is my review on Bulletstorm. Bulletstorm is a first-person shooter that puts you in the boots of Grayson Hunt, who is the leader of an ex-assassination squad called Dead Echo, who are now feared outlaws and are wanted across the galaxy. Now, I don't want to give away too much of the story, but basically it's a revenge plot and a lot of the elements are very predictable. We've seen all these kinds of stories before. Now, one thing I do appreciate about the story is when you're going through the tutorial or the prologue at the start of the game, that's when all your motivations and the backstory is revealed, and it gets all of that out of the way then and there. Basically the game just goes, this is what's happened to you, this is who did it, and now it's time to go and kill him. The story does develop as you progress through the game, but as I said earlier, it's very predictable. A lot of the elements you can see coming a mile away, but I do see the story of Bulletstorm as an adequate framing device for the action in the game. It does give you a reason for being there, so it's good enough in that respect. Something that I really do enjoy in Bulletstorm is the dialogue between the characters. Now, it's definitely not smart or intelligent dialogue, so if you're looking for witty remarks, you're probably not going to find them here, but some of the insults that get thrown around in this game really did make me laugh, which is quite rare for video games. It's good to see that the script writers and the voice actors really put the effort into making it feel cathartic and just throwing some really random and amusing lines into this game.
Lay down cover for Captain Dickhole! Take out those flare gunners!
Here comes Butter Dick Jones and his heavenly asshole machine! On their faces. Run! Run! No one imagines perishing at the hands of a child's toy! Lusty boom boom, bad things!
So let's move on to the combat. The combat is where Bulletstorm really shines. There are a lot of different things that keep the game fun and interesting. First of all, the weapons go a long way to make the combat as engaging as possible. Now, there are 7 unique weapons in this game, and each weapon can cause a severe amount of destruction if used correctly. Each weapon has a special charge attack, which is basically an alternative fire mode, and they can cause even more carnage if used correctly. For example, the charge attack on a sniper rifle fires an explosive bullet, which after hitting an enemy you can then still guide the bullet around, so you can hit an enemy and then guide him over to his friends and then make the bullet explode, which will take the entire group out. And there are a lot of different ways to use the weapons and their charge abilities in the game that really make it interesting and do guarantee that you won't play a section of the game the same way twice.
Some hell!
Watch the corners! Don't let them flank us!
Tell them about today's special, Bucky!
problems.
This place just keeps getting better. That is disgusting. Problem solved.
No time to lose. Let's go.
That echo, superior to all. Is this gamma radiation the cause of the...
Now you'll also have two other devices at your disposal, the boot and the leash. When you kick an enemy with the boot, they'll enter a state of low gravity for a few seconds. So the boot can be used to get an enemy out of your face, or you can kick them towards a dangerous object such as a wall with spikes sticking out of it. And you can also use the boot to kick objects at enemies like exploding barrels and stuff like that. Now the leash does the opposite of what the boot does. You can use it to pull enemies and objects towards you. Now it's really handy for those situations where an explosive barrel is out of reach, so you can use the leash to pull it over and then kick it straight back at the enemy. Now the leash also has a secondary feature called the thumper, and this creates a blast of energy that launches all nearby enemies into the air, rendering them harmless for a short time. Something else that you can do in combat is slide. Now when you slide into an enemy, it has a similar effect to kicking them. They get pushed back quite a substantial amount and they enter a state of low gravity. And it can also be used to get in and out of dangerous situations really quickly, because you do move quite fast when you slide. So all in all, there are quite a number of things in the combat that the player can use. It really does keep Bulletstorm unique and interesting throughout the entire game, and I do applaud the developers for doing that. So let's move on to the skill shot system. Every time you kill an enemy in Bulletstorm, you get awarded points based on how you killed them, and there are over 100 different ways to kill enemies in Bulletstorm. Now, when you come across a drop kit, you can use the points you've earned to purchase additional ammunition. You can also upgrade the maximum amount of ammo you can carry for a particular weapon. You can also upgrade the amount of charge shots you can have for your weapon. You can purchase thumper ammo. Basically, you use points to resupply your character throughout the game. Now, when I first started playing Bulletstorm, I was a little worried about this feature. I thought it would force the player to find every single skill shot and have to build up massive combos in order to get a decent amount of points. But I am quite happy to report that's not the case. You can stick to the more basic skills such as kicking enemies into electrical wires, and that will still give you a decent amount of points. But it does really feel quite good when you pull off a really awesome shot and it takes out a group of enemies and all these numbers and different skill shots jump up on the screen and you earn yourself a few thousand points all at once. Okay, so let's move on to the multiplayer. There are two modes of multiplayer in Bulletstorm. The first mode is called Echoes. Now, this is actually more of a single player mode, but what you do is you play through small sections of the campaign and you have to score a set amount of points by the time you reach the end of that section. And there's also a time limit on these sections that you have to beat, and the quicker you complete the section, the more bonus points you get at the end. And after you finish a section of the game, your score is put up on a leaderboard, and that's basically the extent of the online component of the Echoes mode. Now, the second mode is called Anarchy. In this mode, you and up to 3 other players team up to fight waves of enemies, and the objective is to beat the required score for each wave. And there are 20 waves in total, and each time you beat a wave, the minimum score required to pass is raised a little bit. And in between each wave you get about 30 seconds to spend the points that you've earned on upgrading your weapon or buying a new one, and you can also buy upgrades for your character to make them give them more health or make them faster and stuff like that. Now you also earn experience points and you level up depending on how much you contribute to the overall team score. So if one person scores about 80% of the entire team's score at the end of a wave, they'll get 80% of the experience points. And each time you level up, you gain a new customization option for your online character. So you can make the character look however you like. You can give them a different helmet, put different camouflage on their armor or on their gun, stuff like that. Players also have access to a special ability called Blood Symphony, and when you score enough points you can activate this ability. When Blood Symphony is activated, kicking or sliding into an enemy is an instant kill and scores you a couple of 100 points, which is pretty good. And this is useful for clearing out groups of enemies, especially if they're all standing in a straight line, because you can just slide in and instantly kill all of them and score possibly 1,000 or more points. So that's all Bulletstorm has in the multiplayer department. There's no deathmatch or campaign co-op or anything like that. I'm not particularly worried about it. I don't care for online play, but I know some people buy games solely for the multiplayer. So just a word of warning for the online players out there, the multiplayer side of Bulletstorm is pretty minimal. Just one final thing about the multiplayer. This applies to the PC version. Bulletstorm uses games to Windows Live, and I know quite a few people despise that application. I'm not a huge fan of it myself, and I actually had quite a bit of trouble getting Anarchy mode to work with a friend because of a setting in games to Windows Live. So if you are looking to get this on the PC and you don't like games to Windows Live, just a word of warning that it does exist on this game. I'm just going to jump back to the single player before I finish. I have read some reviews that say the final hour or so of the game is stale or boring and that the game overstays its welcome. I completely disagree with those statements. Bulletstorm is about 6 to 6.5 hours long and it has around about 20 levels, so it's basically the standard length of most modern first person shooters, which in my book isn't long enough. I'd like to see more of Bulletstorm. I've played it about 3 times through and I'm not sick of it yet. So what's the final verdict on Bulletstorm? I've heard some people say, oh, it's so juvenile, it's silly, I can't take this game seriously and it only appeals to immature idiots. Now while the story is played with a rather serious tone that doesn't fit with the gameplay and some of the things characters say throughout the game, at its core Bulletstorm is an over-the-top wacky game. But guess what? It's fun. And when I pick up a video game, when I purchase a video game, that's what I want. I want a fun, entertaining experience, and Bulletstorm delivers that. As someone who is sick to death of most first-person shooters, Bulletstorm is just a breath of fresh air. Here's the final score.
Take every motherfucking last one of you with us. And the sudden plunge in the sullen swell. 10 fathoms deep on the road to hell.